Welcome to Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. Legal issues simplified through real client stories and real-world experiences. Creating simplicity in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. I'm your host, ByrdAdatto, with my co-host, Michael Byrd.
Thanks, Brad. As a business and healthcare law firm, we represent clients in multiple business sectors, especially healthcare.
Yep.
This season, we are diving deep into the exhilarating and terrifying process of opening a business. Our theme this season, Brad, is starting a business.
Yes, and starting a business can sound terrifying to some people, Michael, but that's just one season of a business. What are these other seasons that you're referencing?
Yeah, so there are 4 seasons of a business that we've kind of flagged for purposes of communication of where businesses are, and we're going to dedicate an entire podcast season to each season of a business this year.
Yeah,
we have the building season, which is where we are this season, getting that business started. We have the operating season, doors are open, and then we have the scaling season. It's time to grow, and then the buying and selling season. But we're all knee-deep into what do you do when you start a business right now.
Yeah, and I'm excited today. We have one of our longtime friends in studio with us today.
Yeah, me too, Brad. But we have a few important things to talk about first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you take naps?
All right, first off, Michael, I know we have maturity levels of 13-year-old boys, but even at that age, I don't think you should take naps. I mean, we're not in preschool anymore here. So, no, I don't take naps. And second, as you know, sleep, I don't sleep much because sleep just bores the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. So I don't take naps, obviously. So, I'm sorry. I forgot you love naps.
Yeah, you didn't forget. You wanted to come on strong with your answer just to try to hurt me a little bit. But yes, audience, naps are in my top 5 favorite things in life.
All right. I don't know about you, but I feel like it's a very strong statement. You might even be exaggerating just a little bit.
Okay, well, we'll just go right into it.
Okay, go.
Faith, family, ByrdAdatto, tennis, naps. Boom.
That's awesome. I'm glad I made the top 3.
Well, I said ByrdAdatto, not BradAdatto.
I think I heard correctly. I'll let the tape reflect itself. I'm kind of surprised. Our audience is probably wondering, where was typing in the top 5?
Typing back in the day probably was in the top 5, Brad, but we'll call it top 10 now. But, it's just not the same now. You got computers and the keyboards don't have that same feel.
Michael, at this moment, every typing coach just shed a tiny little collective tear hearing you say that. I, of course, know that you love napping, but like almost everything you do in your life, your nap style is not normal either.
Well, I think it's better than normal, Brad.
Okay.
My naps are power naps, 10 to 15 minutes max.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back here. First, power naps, I believe that's your marketing term, or people like you who try to make yourself feel good about still napping in your life. Second, audience member, I'll get a little behind the curtains here with us. Mike and I travel a lot together, and when we fly, we get on the plane, and right when we get ready to take off, Michael puts his earbuds in, and like clockwork, he falls asleep for the first 10 to 15 minutes and wakes up and goes, okay, let's go.
Yeah. Well, and this is true, audience, and Brad and I probably fly together more often together than we fly with our own families.
Yes.
And so Brad had to get let in on my nap game very early on in our relationship because the minute the engine turns on, I'm dead.
Yeah, those turn on, you go off.
Yes.
All right. Why are we enlightening everyone in this room and on the audience about nap talk?
Well, I read an article that I found interesting. The article is titled, "Regular Short Naps Could Be the Easiest Way to Reduce the Risk of Dementia."
Was the author, was it a gentleman maybe goes by the name of Miguel by chance?
Yes, it is a very helpful article. I'm wanting to show it to my wife as well to really enhance my opportunity to reduce the risk of dementia. But no, Miguel did not write this article,
Okay,
Brad.
well, what does the article say then?
Regular short naps keeps our brains young by preserving volume. Now, don't ask me what volume is.
Okay.
I actually don't know. But apparently there's a link with cognitive functions and lower risk of dementia and other diseases when you have volume.
Well, I don't believe napping helps you. Wait, what are we doing here again?
Yeah, point made. I see what you did there. Well, so here's what the article said. Scientists from the U.S., the U.K., and Uruguay analyzed data from almost 400,000 people, Brad.
Okay, that's a lot.
Aged 40 to 69. The nappers had larger brains, equivalent to those who were 2.6 to 6.5 years younger. And so, I don't want to bore you, but my conclusion, reading between the lines a little bit, the article basically concludes that I'm better than you for many reasons, including my nap game.
Yeah, I have bad news for you. You're so old that it doesn't matter how many naps you take, it's not going to help you. In fact, I think I'm looking at you right now. I'm starting to see your eyes get heavy. It looks like you're about to nap, and maybe you should head home and watch Matlock.
I don't hate on Matlock, and yes, I probably could fall asleep right here. No offense to our guests that we're about to bring on. And, Brad, you don't wear jealousy well.
I don't?
Yes, you need to stop
Okay.
or start taking power naps
right.
for your brain. Okay, let's bring on our guest. Joining us today for the third time is our friend Jessica Nunn. Jessica founded Maven. Her job is to make the complex world of revenue, profitability, and key performance indicators clear and simple. Jessica started her career in Big Four public accounting firms, at middle market accounting firms. She has a dual degree from Texas A&M. She has a bachelor in business administration and a master's of science in finance. In her spare time, at last count, Jessica still enjoys reading, yoga, and spending time with her husband. I've mentioned this in every episode so far, but we haven't gotten into big yoga talk yet.
Yeah.
And most important, this is not only her third time in, but her second time in studio live with us.
Yes, but then she did notice that the studio's new.
Yes, it is. It's good. It's looking prettier and more updated. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, team nap.
Yes.
Especially mine's 20 minutes, so I prefer 20 minutes. I need a little bit more than 10,
Jessica.
but
20 works. 20 is my outside
more
limit.
than that, you wake up and you're like, is it Tuesday still? Is it Thursday? Should I be hungry? And is it dark out? I don't know what's happening.
Okay, when Brad can't remember anything because of his dementia, we'll go hang out.
Yeah, deal.
Well, I'm just so disappointed. I don't even know that you're on team nap.
Yeah.
Can we cut this now, Kennedy? Can we just Kennedy says we got to keep going.
Let's get through this, and then we can take a little power nap and move on with the day. Yeah. All right. So, Jessica, let's get started. Talk to us first. I know that audience have heard you before. They know about Maven, but talk a little bit for our new audience members about Maven Financial and your clientele.
Yeah, so we're a financial services firm. We help, you guys know, mostly healthcare clients understand their finances better. So we sit with clients every month, look at their P&L, look at their balance sheets, and help them understand what the heck are these numbers, what's the story, and what do I do next, right? So they get their financials from their bookkeeper, and they're like, I don't know what this means. Please don't. I don't want to look at it. And then we say, no, you know what? It's interesting. It's telling you something about your business. Let's look at it and find out what that is. Then we help them take that information and make a plan for the future. Okay, now we know what you did. Here's the story of your business. What do you want to do? How can we build a plan? How can we get intentional about how you're generating revenue, how you're spending your money, how your cash flow is working out so that you're building the business that's your vision. That's what's already in your head. How can we map it out for you financially?
You help interpret the numbers and then kind of and the story that's being told currently, and then help them look forward.
Yeah, make a plan. We say you need a CPA and you need a bookkeeper. Those folks are great. They're telling you what already happened. Mm-hmm. So we're adding on to that, but then also helping you figure out, but what's next? What should I do now?
Well, that and are you meeting your plan? All right. Well, let's, this season, Jessica, we are focused on starting a business. So from a CFO type perspective, we'd love for you to share some thoughts. When one of your clients walks in and says, I'm thinking about starting a business, what's really the first question you ask them? Yeah.
So the first thing we usually ask is, okay, when? Like, what's your plan here? Because some of them will be like, I'm actually opening next week,
mm-hmm.
And we'll say, oh, great. Like, have you thought about this, or this? So, we want to understand exactly when their plan is to open. Some of them are really smart and say, no, we really have, we want to open and we've got a good 6 months until we want to do that. We wanted to talk to you guys and get our ducks in a row early. So, of course, we love that. But the first thing we try to understand is, when do you want to open, and what all have you accomplished towards opening so far? Because, there's a whole slew of things to do, right? We kind of compare it these days to planning a wedding. You have all these things that you need to do for the wedding date, right? So you have all these things you need to do for the opening of your business. How many of those things have you done? Who's on your team to help you do those? Are you on track? Are you behind? Have you even found a groom yet? Like what's happening here? So we really want to understand where you are and what you've accomplished so far.
Do your clients in general, using your analogy, have they been married before? Or is this their first business and you're kind of typically educating them on the whole thing? Or do you get more clientele that are seasoned and opening?
It's totally both. It's both, and we love both. So, just this week we've talked to folks who have said, I have this dream of opening a practice, right? And we'll say, okay, when do you want to open it? Have you found the husband yet? What do you want to do? And then we have others who say, okay, I have one already, but now I'm understanding that I need your help because I want to make sure that this one's how it should be, because I want to open 2, 3, and 4. Like, let's get this one right first before we replicate our mistakes. So we love both.
My question just left me.
You a nap?
Yeah, I do. I do need a nap. Okay, well, we'll move on. So if a client is considering starting a new business, when should they start their planning?
Yeah, we say as soon as possible. Here's what's funny. A lot of folks, I always laugh because I was not one of these people. They say, starting from when I was a child, it was my dream to open a business, right? They were like, I've just wanted to be an entrepreneur my whole life, and so we like to start to talk to folks when they've kind of got a vision of what they want that business to be. They want to open a med spa, or they want to open, a dental office, whatever it is that they want to open. They know that they want to open it. They've identified, like, okay, this is the general area. I'm ready to do it. Like, I'm for real now. Sometimes people will say, but shouldn't I already have the location picked out? And I think we can help with that. We've had several clients who have come to us and said, okay, listen, I have 3 potential places to rent. We've said, okay, good. What's the rent of each? What's the size of each? What's the tenant allowance of each? Let's understand the financial implications of each of them before you make your decision. So, obviously selecting your space is one of the most important things. So get as many people to help you with that decision as you can.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, when they arrive for that first conversation, how often do you say, well, can I see what your business plan looks like? And then they have those giant eyes staring back at you.
Yeah, they're like, well, see, that's the thing. That's why we called you. All right. But sometimes they say, I know in my head, or sometimes they have a business plan, right? But we want to understand, but exactly what have you thought through and what haven't you thought through?
Right.
And so your view of the world, kind of when you're starting a business, obviously a really important part of the business plan is the financial forecasting.
Yeah, that's what we care about the most.
budget.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys get involved with kind of the other elements to starting a business, or is it primarily through the lens of what's the financial impact of whatever that choice is?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's through the lens of everything financial. So our ultimate goal is building that 24-month, month-by-month pro forma, because that's likely what your bank is going to need. So, you got to do it, right? So that's really our end game, is the true plan. You guys know we love making plans for these clients. So the month-by-month, 24-month pro forma. But in order to have a good pro forma, we have to solve a lot with you, right? So first, like we talked about, what's your space look like? How much is that going to be? What costs are you paying? What's a tenant allowance? What's the construction going to be? What's the timing going to be? When can you open? So we have to work through and uncover all that. But then as we're building the pro forma, we have to start with the revenue goals. Okay, well, who are you going to hire and when? Let's make the decision as best as we can now. How much are they going to generate per hour? How busy are they going to be? So it really requires, even though the end game is a financial plan, every component of that is everything operational, right? Then, for example, when we're mapping out the expenses, okay, it's the line item. Let's talk about marketing, right? Now we're at the marketing. What's your plan? Who are you using? How much is your website? What's the monthly fee ongoing? And a lot of times they'll say, I don't know. But the beauty of it is we usually got a guy, right? So we usually have someone that we've worked with on several other clients. We really like their work. We think that they'd be great for, the budget that we want to set for you. So That's another beauty of getting in early is we can say, you know what, here's 3 that we love. Talk to them all. See what you think.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of reduces some of your workload.
Excellent.
Well, and then that I think you were kind of leaning on this, but I want to dive a little deeper. So someone comes in a lot, as you said, a lot of your clients are in the professional service side of it. How do you help them forecast that revenue?
Oh, yeah. That's the most fun part, Brad. So, this is the hardest thing. And I know if you're asking me, too, what's the most important part? This is probably it, right? Because I'm probably going to get your rent right.
Yeah.
Your office supplies, is it tragic if we over or underestimate your office supplies? Probably not.
Shouldn't
right?
be.
But the hardest part and the part that is...
Can I ask, is a private jet part of office supplies?
So she knew you were going to ask that because you've been asking her that for 10 years.
You have been. One day we will budget.
Okay, because I mean, if that's a smaller part of the budget, I just want to make sure.
Yeah. So the revenue is tricky. So what we want to first understand, what's your vision, right? Some people will say, I want to keep it small. I want to keep a boutique. I'm going to be the only provider at first. Okay, great. Some say, no, we're going to start a get-go with 3 injectors and 2 estheticians, and then I'm going to do this, and we're going to have all this stuff happening.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got to understand that too. And then, what's your client base like? Do you already have a following? Do any of these team members have a following? Are we starting from scratch? What's your town like? Are you in Dallas, Texas, where it's maybe hard to find someone? Or are you in middle of nowhere? There's never been a med spa here. We're really excited for one, right? So we really have to understand who are your providers, what services are you going to offer, right? What services are you going to offer? What's your capacity, how busy you'll be? And we spend a lot of time looking at that, and we budget it month by month by month. So like, you opening in January 2024? Great. We think you're going to see this many patients. We think you're going to produce this amount. Here's what's going to happen in February, right? To the best of our knowledge. We map that out. And then the sum of, okay, we ready for math? The sum of what each of our providers can produce is our collections for the whole practice. So we really dive down into what we call the building blocks of revenue, which is every last lever we can pull, we want to set a goal for.
And I would guess, again, just using, I guess, common sense, but getting to the understanding of how they're going to be busy is really key for this, because if they've done it before somewhere else and you have a sense of what they do currently somewhere else, then that I would guess that's easier to predict versus someone who's like, this is my childhood dream, but I've never done it before.
Right. And we have seen both. You
Yeah.
know, and the beauty of it is once you've seen it a few times and you can say, okay, typically this is what we see. So we can kind of provide some insight. That's what's great about us having done this now for several years is we have clients that we started, right, their practice with them. Now they're 3-4 years in, and we're like, okay, here's how it went for them, right? So we kind of have some experience with each of those
Super
scenarios.
helpful. Yeah.
And diving deeper in for our audience members. So let's just use an example. So someone says, I want to hire this RN to help me with my injections. So Jessica, let's just dive a little bit deeper behind the curtains here. Let's think about a situation where someone comes to you and says, all right, well, I have this nurse injector that I'm going to bring on, and she's been working for me 3 days a week. What should I be thinking about when she comes in? Just doing Botox and fillers, what type of revenue should I be thinking about? Since it sounds like y'all have gone deep into these kind of things.
Yeah. So, we would first start by saying, does she already have a following? That's what's so different about this industry. And we talk about this a lot is, in other healthcare professions, right? Maybe you have a nurse or a medical assistant or a dental hygienist. They don't come with their patient following. But in this experience, that nurse injector, does she already have an established patient base? It's going to come with her because that has shown to grow your practice quickly, right? Or do they not? Right? Have they never actually, are they new to the area? Have they never actually, do they not have much experience with injecting at all? So you kind of have to understand what is their patient base already. If they don't have any patient base already, then we bring in the marketing team. What does it look like for, competition? What does it look like for, we got to start marketing soon, getting the word out, boots on the ground. You're going to have to walk around and meet everybody that is in your general area and get them to send patients over. And we're going to plan for a slower ramp up in that case.
That makes sense.
But we know what a busy RN should be producing. We know what a busy, esthetician should be producing, depending on the services that you're providing. So we can really do the math and help you see, like, okay, once they are busy, they're here. So let's assume they start at 10% capacity. If they have 10 appointments available per day, we're going to say month one, maybe they only have one patient that day.
Gotcha.
And then we'll build up to, to full schedule.
Well, let's move to the less exciting, the expense side, but
Painful.
really important, especially if you have a partner that wants a private jet.
Yep.
So
not that we're judging that partner.
No, not what they're judging that partner. They just don't have good memory.
What if you could nap on the private jet?
I was thinking
I'm
the
in.
same.
Yep, that's where I'm in now. Okay, all right, Jessica. Talk to us, the audience, about the expense side of planning, kind of for their forecasting.
Yeah, and again, this is where we get to dive into the true operational side of the business. So, who are you hiring and when? We need to know that.
Right.
How are you paying them? That is a big, big, big deal right now with all of our clients. So we're really helping folks put together compensation packages and bonus plans. And, hiring people is one of the hardest things right now, you guys know. So how do we be really creative but intentional and, give everybody compensation plans that make sense for the practice financially, right? And then it's about going through the line items. So we know what the expenses should be.
Right.
We know what all the things are that you're going to need to spend money on and buy. But let's talk to you about that. Again, what's your marketing plan? What does that look like? Hey, what's your IT budget? Who have you hired? What's that spend look like? What about your software, right? Your practice management software. Here's who we like. Here's what we like to see. This is what you need to track. But, here's what it's going to cost per month. Are you willing to spend that? Let's map it all out. So once we've identified all the costs, right, and you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of our clients are like, oh, shoot, electricity? Forgot about that one. We got to really think about all the costs that there might be, even the ones that aren't exciting, and then plan for them all. Then we get to how much extra money do you have, right? Those are our two favorite words, and our planning is your extra money. So how much, and when does that start happening? How long are you going to burn through cash reserves until you start generating a profit? So that's where we get to kind of see the results of the labor. And then we tweak, we really needed to spend money more on marketing. Let's push out a little bit more. What does that do?
Yeah.
Well, I guess going back to the tweaking statement, when you are working with someone on their business plan, what are the areas, either positive or negative, that will have the biggest impact when tweaking?
Yeah. It's the revenue. Truly is. I mean, the rent is pretty clear. We know what that's going to be.
Right.
Something, too, that's tricky to project can be like the supplies cost, the consumables, because it's really going to depend on the services that you're doing. But we can usually get pretty clear on that because we have really great benchmarking.
Right.
So we know what practices you usually spend. But I'll tell you, more and more, I'm looking back at previous startups that we've worked through, new practices or even second or third locations. And we really need to talk to clients about potentially dialing down their revenue expectations because we're seeing more and more. I think 2021 was really busy for a lot of folks coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
2022 was the same, right? But now I feel maybe it's like more competition or, people are kind of like, people have been getting Botox for a while now. We've tapped a lot of the market. So the growth isn't quite as large on the revenue side with some of our clients now as it maybe was a couple of years ago. So we really need to get clear on the revenue expectations and maybe even dial back, a little bit so that we're sure that we're not running out of money and we've set realistic goals.
Do you bump, and that makes total sense, do you bump into issues with your clients with overstaffing and getting themselves in trouble either on that end or with their expensive coat racks buying too much equipment because they get excited by all the shiny objects?
Usually I feel like they really listen to us when we say, let's be intentional, let's have a really good plan. How much is this going to cost and what are we willing to spend and how can we make sure we're making our ROI? Sometimes we have had cases where, people haven't necessarily, they've gotten really excited about equipment and bought a lot, right? But same with hiring people, it's not so easy right now. Even if someone wanted to hire 3 RNs, I don't know that they're going to get them, So we haven't run into that. We really like to, if clients have an opportunity to hire someone, we really want to try to make it work because that opportunity doesn't happen. These folks don't grow on trees, we say, right?
Yeah.
So when someone shows up at your door, we try to make it work. I would say the struggles that we have the most in the end, looking back, at some of the ones we've done, again, is just people get excited and they think, oh, for sure I'm going to have this many patients. Why wouldn't I? I do amazing work. Well, you do, and we know that. But your town doesn't know that yet. We
Right.
really have to get the message out. We really have to get patients in. We really need to make sure that calls are being converted and being scheduled, and everyone's trained and all of that. And so we have people that we work with that can help if we notice that this is a problem. But I think truly it comes down to estimating your revenue accurately as you can. However, we tell everybody, listen, every month that goes by is one more month of data that you now have. So we're not going to get it right the first time. You're not going to know the first time. But month 2, right, we'll know a little bit more and we can update.
Right.
Month 3, we'll know a little bit more and we can update. So we are constantly updating, tweaking, refining so that we can have the most accurate budget pro forma even after you've opened. So all of our clients, you guys know, we know how much money should be in their checking account every month, for the next 12 months because we have a very clear plan. And if they call us and say, I have 3 injectors going on maternity leave, like now, this is happening in 9 months, we update. Okay, this is what this does. Here's what we can do today to help with that.
Awesome. We're out of time. That was
Can't believe it.
amazing. Thank you, Jessica, for joining us today. What we'll do next, as you know, because this is your 3rd time, we'll go into a commercial, and on the other side, we'll wrap up with a little legal insights and maybe talk and plot about getting that, convincing you to let us get the private jet.
The napping plane.
Yes, the napping plane.
Sounds good.
Many business owners use legal counsel as a last resort rather than as a proactive tool that can further their success. Why? For most, it's the fear of unknown legal costs. ByrdAdatto's Access Plus program makes it possible for you to get the ongoing legal assistance you need for one predictable monthly fee. That gives you unlimited phone and email access to the legal team, so you can receive feedback on legal concerns as they arise. Access Plus, a smarter, simpler way to access legal services. Find out more. Visit ByrdAdatto.com today.
Well, welcome back to Legal 123's at ByrdAdatto. I'm your host, ByrdAdatto, with my co-host, Michael Byrd. Although in studio, we still have Jessica Nunn. But Michael, this season, our theme is starting a business. And we get to camp out on the building season. And there are a lot of things happening and when you start a business. And Jessica was kind enough to join us and really had some great points about how do you build that business from a financial perspective. But she raised a couple of points both from a personnel side and from a staffing side. I'll address the personnel side. On the personnel side, one of the big takeaways I took away was, look, when you are bringing on that injector who has this huge following, be very mindful of, does that person have an employment agreement of some sort? And if so, are they restricted from soliciting those patients? Or do they have a non-compete of some sort? Because you don't want to then build out this great plan that Jessica's going to put together for you, only to find out on day 3 you get a temporary restraining order because you recruited someone that had a non-compete and you didn't realize that, and you built an entire process around them, including buying maybe a big chunk of equipment.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point on the employment side. Wait, do I need to scratch that?
No, you should
okay,
keep it.
you get that today, Brad. And sometimes, Brad, we have clients who go to a trade association show, go to the exhibit floor, they see something really cool.
Super shiny.
Yes, and they get really excited. And we even heard a guest this season talk about not really doing much due diligence on it before they buy it or lease it. And so you then now have got this commitment, and it's not just a commitment to either leasing or buying a machine. It's taking up space.
Yep.
And so you are now expecting an ROI for that machine, and it might be okay, but what if you could have something that was even better, either for clinically better or business-wise better, that would be in that same space? And that's where people like Jessica can come in to help do the tweaking that we talked about. But then on our side, looking at, what are the commitments they're making, and what is the staffing, going back to the staffing for the equipment? Do you have the right people to even be doing this?
Right.
And so, I think the bottom line is, if you're doing big things, you want to check with your Jessica, and then obviously you want to do a compliance check.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we sign off, any final thoughts, Michael?
I'm ready to go take a nap. I don't know about you.
Audience members, hopefully this was more exciting than Michael made it out to be. But while Michael's napping, we will see you guys next Wednesday for our show. We'll continue to learn about starting a business as we discuss the legal blueprint you need for forming an entity. Thanks again for joining us today. And remember, if you like this episode, please subscribe. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating and share with your friends.
You can also sign up for the ByrdAdatto newsletter by going to our website at ByrdAdatto.com.
ByrdAdatto is providing this podcast as a public service. This podcast is for educational purposes only. This podcast does not constitute legal advice, nor does it establish an attorney-client relationship. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by ByrdAdatto. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Please consult with an attorney on your legal issues.